in my career, there have been certain presidential candidates who struck at least private fear in the hearts and brains of the other party. George Bush in 1998, the Democrats knew if he ran, he'd be formidable. Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, less Donald Trump, less Hillary Clinton, less John Kerry, less Mitt Romney. They were in the category of people on the other party kind of mocking them and saying, sure, make them the nominee. We'd welcome that. I look at all these Democrats, particularly Governor Walz right now, and all I see on the Republican side is mockery. Now, there was mockery of Trump, and Trump turned out to be a great candidate. But Walz, in particular, has become just the subject of MAGA derision. Here is Walz breaking Gavin Newsom's streak of having three first guests, consecutive guests on his podcast. This is Gavin Newsom from the right, and here he is in colloquy with Minnesota Governor Walz on his podcast.
But the bottom line is, and I think it goes back to what we began with, is, and I applaud you for this, is we cannot continue to be on the defense reacting to this. We've got to go on the offense. We got to meet people where they are. But I also think this, and this is where, this is part of the conversation I'm trying to have, is you got to respect people you disagree with, and you can't just dismiss people.
How do you fight it?
And well, this
I
notion
think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they want to do it. I know I can outrun them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of thing.
Counter but it's a natural reaction. I think it's one of the reasons we're losing so many men. And again, it's multi-ethnic. It's not just white men. We're losing them. We're losing them to these guys online. We're losing them people that I'm bringing on this podcast as well. That's why I brought.
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
But they exist, and we could deny they exist. They exist. Not only they exist, they persist, and they're actually influencing young kids every single day.
How do we push some of those guys back under a rock?
I think we have to first understand what their motivations are. I think we have to understand what they're actually doing. And
you don't
I think
that's it's racism and misogyny?
I think there's a lot of that, but I don't think it's exclusively that. When you talk to a guy like Steve Bannon, he talks about working folks, and he talks about how we hollowed out the industrial core of this country. I understand that. But so we can dismiss the notion of election denialism. We could completely dismiss what he did on January 6th, but I don't think you can dismiss what he's saying. Reminds me a lot of what Bernie Sanders was saying. Reminds me a lot of what Democrats said 20, 30 years ago.
All right. So I continue to tell you, Gavin Newsom understands what's going on in America better than a lot of people give him credit for. But I look at Walz and how Republicans are treating him, and I just say, I don't get what he's up to. So, Dan, I'll ask you the question. You can pick one of those two guys or someone else. And the answer is not Fetterman. And if you need me to explain why, I will. Who right now is the leader of the anti-Trump coalition in America? What Democratic politician is the leader of that coalition? If you had to pick one.
Well, I'm going to give you two, because I think there's two factions right now.
Yeah.
I think the emerging leader of the kind of hell no, burn the thing down, full frontal attack on Trump is becoming J.B. Pritzker. He is unapologetic in public speeches, in private. He is not backing down. We can debate if that is the right strategy, but I think increasingly he is unafraid, and he's got a perch from Illinois, and he's a fairly safe blue state for now. On the other hand, Gavin Newsom does appear to be kind of going into the lion's den, or as you said, bring the lions into his den, and is beginning to talk about, I thought that clip was fantastic because, and I see the chat is exploding. That is the conversation we need to have as a party, right? I may not like, or people may not like what side of that coin the party chooses, but we're having it now. And so I think there are two lanes so far that are carved out. I think Rahm Emanuel probably wishes to kind of straddle the two. I think Tim Walz, what is interesting is Walz is starting to talk about the failures of the campaign. He's beginning to kind of appear more and kind of speak in English. So I don't think Walz is likely going to be the nominee, but this is all good, I think, for the Democratic Party. This needs to happen in the next 12 months.
Sean, who's the most effective leader of the anti-Trump coalition now?
I will say this to Dan's point. I guess it depends on how you define it, but I would say that the one that actually gets the most attention is AOC. I don't think that she's capable of running or leading the effort, but when she does the interviews, she breaks through. She's passionate. I think people actually feel like she's leading. you look at some of these clips and people want to fight. They want and she's willing to do it. Like I said, I don't look at her as a leader of a movement, but she's at least willing to go on there and fight. I look at Walz. I mean, I got to be honest with you. That was like phony and phonier. When that conversation, I mean, Walz just, it's almost like he's like, what can I say to make it look like I'm tough? I'm going to say I'm going to kick their ass on a WWE. Like, I'm sorry, that guy doesn't look like he can. Well, I'll just, it just didn't, it doesn't come across as authentic or genuine in any way. I think Gavin is like trying to have a conversation, and Walz is trying to look tough, and that's it. And I would take either one of them. To me, I think Gavin could probably raise more money, and he's got better hair, but that's it. I mean, I just, it's sad.
Look, I don't think it's sad because it's 3.5 years away. This is when we should have these conversations. Like, we really should. Like, look,
doesn't the coalition need a leader now?
No, it doesn't.
No?
It doesn't. No,
How about a role model of effectiveness?
What's that? You cut
How
out.
about a role model of effectiveness?
Look, go back to Republicans 4 years ago, 3 years ago. You had one faction saying Ron DeSantis was Donald Trump without the baggage. You had another faction saying Donald Trump is, Moses off the mountain. And then you had a few that were like Nikki Haley is like neither of them. So they had that fight, right? And so, like, we have to have this.
But we had. First of all, I would agree with you. There was two. You were either Trump or you were, hey, I want Trump without, some of the personality.
Yeah.
And that was it. But we're kind of all in the same agreement direction wise, but we just got to figure out which is the right guy. One or two.
There wasn't, because the feeling was Trump couldn't get off the grievances of 2020 in his first term, and DeSantis was talking about the future. And so you had Ken Griffin.
But my point is, there was no difference in policy. It was who's the best leader, right? That was it.
We didn't really know what Trump's vision was for 2.0 yet. At the time, he was not very. We knew what he was against. It was Joe Biden. We did not know what he was for yet, right? So I think this is what happens. We're only 4 months or 5 months since the actual November 5th. This is what happens. This is what happens. And look, stand by for candidates that run in 2026 that none of us know, in districts that none of us are watching, who strike a chord with the electorate and make some noise, because they'll emerge. They always do.